Doctor, 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 doctor. To hell with 3 years, I'm Dr. Johnson. As a doctor, I've vaccinated people for 55 of my 56 years, so I'm not sure I qualify as an anti-vaxxer. But nor does this COVID jab qualify as a vaccine. All previous vaccines stimulated the immune system to do its own thing. But these COVID jabs are telling the immune system what to do. They're like our Premier. So why is it called a vaccine? It's mainly to give it credibility. Because if Pfizer and AstraZeneca had to rely on their own reputation, they'd be in deep shit. They've faced countless lawsuits for healthcare fraud, and they're basically criminal outfits with deep pockets. And those pockets are getting deeper this year. Pfizer raked in $57 billion in the first 9 months of this year. It's a credit to their policy of putting wealth ahead of health. It's much more profitable to sell booster doses to wealthy nations than to give any to the third world. And yet, the third world, the poorer countries have had to make do with what they had, and they've done an amazing job. Among the remedies they used, they found 2 gems. So for 40 years they've used 2 really simple and available medications to treat the endemic parasitic diseases they get that we don't see in Australia. And taken in standard doses, ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine not only are they safe, they're very effective. There were 66 trials done on ivermectin for COVID worldwide, all of them very successful. And this drug keeps people out of hospital. Africa is now virtually free of COVID, despite having only 6% of its population vaccinated. It has achieved herd immunity in the way we always did. You allow the allow people to meet the virus, deal with their symptoms, while their immune system gets on top of it. Africa, compared to Europe, which is the most vaccinated continent, has experienced 10 times Africa's mortality, and it's getting worse as Europe enters winter. Now, Australia could have followed the science. Instead, our medical authorities banned the importation of both these readily available, inexpensive cures. Not only did they block Australians from buying them over the counter, as we've seen with Mark, they've banned doctors from prescribing them. They forced doctors to say that the jab was the only available treatment for COVID-19, and if they allowed an exemption for anybody, they get suspended or put out of business. So, having denied Australians the medicines to cure COVID, how successful have these jabs been? They were created to beat the original COVID-19, which has disappeared, and they worked very well. In the countries like Israel and UK and Europe that started early this year, by June were popping the corks because their numbers were down to almost single figures. It had worked well, but then along came Delta, and from there on the case numbers have gone up, and ever since, in every country now, wherever there are high vaccination rates, there are high case numbers. A successful vaccine prevents people getting a disease and transmitting it. These so-called vaccines do neither. I'm sorry to tell many of you have had it, but they just don't work against the Delta. Even Fauci has had to admit it. So when the mainstream media tells you the vaccines are protecting you, they're basically trying to put lipstick on a pig. They also won't work against the Omicron strain. I think you call it moronic down here, don't you? Now this strain must have been brought into New South Wales by jabbed people, because no, the unjabbed can't get into the country. So it's already failing for them. And what we learnt in science over the 50 years is that if Big Pharma reworks this drug to combat Delta and Omicron, the virus will just mutate to another strain. Because once you use a drug, it's what we learnt with antibiotics. When you fight microbes with drugs, they're not stupid, they produce resistant strains. That's why we've got superbugs. Now, the idea of a vaccine passport to reduce the spread is absolute nonsense. It has been shown in many clinical trials that both the jabbed and the unjabbed are spreading the virus. So, you Aussies, we're all equal. And I need to say that vaccine passports are not for the people, they're for the government. They work well for the government because they punish the unvaccinated for not doing what they're told and pressures them to give in. It also serves to divide the community and distract them from the real problem, which is the total failure of the government's pandemic policy, from lockdowns and masks to vaccines. And whenever government plans go pear-shaped, they need to find a scapegoat. If we, as a nation, allow vaccine passports, it'll be the end of the freedom our diggers fought for, both at Ballarat and First World War and other wars. You may be doubly jabbed now, but if you're late for your 4th booster, you'll be treated in much the same way Dan treats the unjabbed now. We're still being told that the jab is safe, even in pregnancy. Yet we're seeing a greatly increased number of miscarriages and stillbirths among the vaccinated. And unless anyone has serious underlying disease, COVID-19 is not a threat to the lives of anybody under 40. Yet heart inflammation after the jab is a definite threat and is common, especially among teenage males. Yesterday I spoke to someone whose 2 sons have heart inflammation following the vax, and they know another family with 2 children hurt. We're losing the battle to save our teenagers from this toxic drug, especially in Victoria, because after being locked up for so long, they're given no option but to have the jab in order to get a life. But soon the government and the medical profession will be coming for our younger children. Pfizer is even planning jabs for infants. Whereas the virus only really attacked those over 80 and those with an average of 3 pre-existing diseases, the jab attacks all age groups. Taiwan is the first country to admit the vaccine has killed more people than the virus, but other countries have but haven't owned up to it yet. this anniversary of the Eureka rebellion, we celebrate the disobedience of the diggers. Okay, it won't be long. I'm not up. Today, almost every Victorian has a reason for civil disobedience. Those who accepted the jab did so to protect their community, unaware they were being deceived or coerced into taking a drug that doesn't work and one that could impair their health. Those who rejected the jab have lost their jobs and been treated as outcasts in their own country. Unlike Eureka, though, we won't win this battle by staging a coup or fighting the police. The police have had to take the jab to keep their jobs. They too have been hurt by this government. This war is a battle for the hearts and minds of the people. Leaders in government, medicine, science, law, the media and even religion have been hijacked to spout the same narrative. So we can't look to our institutions for help, as we found out this week. It is up to us. A small number of leaders cannot control 25 million if the people refuse to cooperate. You're the underdogs, but while you might be small in number, you're awake, you're focused, and you're operating from integrity, and that's a powerful place to start from. The mainstream media will probably describe this gathering as a super spreader event where a few thousand disgruntled anti-vaxxers, conspiracy theorists and right-wing extremists try to undermine the health of the nation. But what the bought media cannot admit is that governments that withheld life-saving measures in a pandemic and mandated a failed experimental drug with unacceptable side effects, and they foisted it onto an unsuspecting public, and this amounts to genocide against their own people. Far from undermining the health of a nation, you, the protesters, are the ones upholding and promoting health in our nation. You are the ones trying to protect our children from a useless, toxic drug they never needed in the first place. You are the ones bringing truth to a pandemic narrative that's been riddled with lies and deception from the start. You are the ones offering freedom to a people oppressed by tyranny. You are the ones trying to unify a divided nation, to bring our old Australia back to the land of tolerance, mateship and a fair go that we always were. You are the ones bringing light into this global darkness. You are the freedom fighters, the heroes and heroines of the resistance. And you are the ones who will lead us to victory.